fielding punts because of how punts by Purdue were impacted. Miguel Recinos will kick off for Iowa. Iowa won the toss. They're deferring their option until the second half. And Nebraska has Jalen Bradley and Austin Rose back deep to receive. And this may happen more than once today, Danny. The wind blows the ball off the tee before Miguel Recinos.
Just get the holder over there. You're going to have to do it every time. I know those kickers don't like it. You want to get an extra cover guy down on the field, too, for the cover team. But it's just good luck trying to get a football to stand up straight.
A shot a moment ago of Jalen Bradley back deep to receive, and we're underway in Lincoln. And with the wind at his back, no surprise that's into the end zone. Recinos with the touchback. And it will be Tanner Lee and Nebraska taking over at their own 25 to start the game. Tanner Lee transferred from Tulane, where he started 19 games there over 2 seasons, set out 2016. 2017 has seen him throw for almost 3,000 yards.
Yeah, he's had a little bit of an up and down season, threw some interceptions early on, but in the last 5 games, he's had 0 interceptions in 4 of those. So he's starting to figure out, hey, let's not turn the ball over. It's a tough lesson to learn sometimes.
Mikhail Wilbon in the backfield. And a play fake for Lee in his first throw of the game, and he's hit as he throws. It's down, the referee doesn't blow the play dead, and it's picked up, and on the first play it's run in by Parker Hesse for Iowa. It was forced out by Anthony Nelson, and if it stands, Iowa has a defensive touchdown on the first play.
What's the right tackle right here? You're just going to see a whiff here. The right tackle, number 76, Brendan Hymas, just whiffs, and that is a scary feeling. That is a quarterback looking to his left. Doesn't feel that pressure, and I do believe that's going to stand as a fumble and a scoop and score.
Well, already Don Capron, the Big Ten referee for today, is pressed into action and communicating with the replay booth. Parker Hesse scored the touchdown. He's forced 2 fumbles this year. He picks up this fumble again if this play stands.
Here's another look. You see Tanner Lee looking clearly to his left. Tries to get rid of it. I don't know, was his arm going forward? That's the question. That's what these officials are trying to look at right now.
It may have been going forward.
I don't know. This is going to be a really tough one on these guys to call. I feel like he got to the arm before he started his motion. It was right in the back, like it's kind of as you cock your arm back to throw the ball. I thought that's when Iowa got to him.
Well, one thing Iowa has done this year, as we said off the top, is force turnovers. One thing Iowa has done this year, as we said off the top, 16 interceptions, 4 recovered fumbles. They lead the Big Ten in interceptions, but this is a potential fumble, scoop, and score. Tanner Lee for Nebraska, the fumble. Parker Hesse with the 6 points if it stands. Another look, Anthony Nelson with the pressure.
Man, that's tough. That is such a tough call for the officials to make. See how he got his hand? He got his hand on the arm before it started to go, but it does an appearance of the ball moving forward. This is a tough one.
After review, that was an incomplete pass. It's going to be second down at the 25-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 14:57. 14:57.
Mark, you were on it. You got it.
The most popular man in the stadium right now is Dan Capron.
Yes, and that is a huge break for Nebraska, because that would be a tough way to open up the game on the first play to see one go the other way. But I am more concerned about Tanner Lee now. His confidence, that is a tough one. You always have that in the back of your mind the rest of the day now as a quarterback.
Well, and the other person's confidence you wonder about is the right tackle, Brendan Hymas, who had the blow-by from Anthony Nelson. Here comes pressure again from Iowa, but this is handoff up the middle to Wilbon. Bo Bauer, among others, stacking up Wilbon after a short plunge up the middle for a yard on second down. Nathan Bajutta in on the tackle as well. Iowa substituting defensively. And Nebraska this year, 38% on third down and looking at third and long. Just a little over 8 yards. Josie Jewell spying the quarterback as Lee throws and out to the 45-yard line and caught. Down immediately on the first catch of the day and of the year for Keon Williams, a transfer from Fresno State. He's been behind J.D. Spielman on the depth chart, but with Spielman's injury, he makes his first grab.
Just going to come right across, run a little post route, and this is a beautifully thrown ball, only where Williams could catch it, but how about the focus and concentration of him pulling it in some traffic.
And also looking back into a sun field as well for Williams. A gain of 19 yards up to the 46. Motion for DeMornay Pearsonell. And a running play for Wilbon. Trying to bounce it outside and can't. Excellent run support. Matt Hankins starting today at corner opposite Josh Jackson.
It'll be interesting to see if Nebraska can start to establish the line of scrimmage, something they've struggled with all season long. They want to get better balance. But a nice job by the corner coming up. Matt Hankins for some support there and making the tackle.
And there is certainly a difference in their balance. 285 yards on average through the air. 111 on the ground, second lowest total in the Big Ten. Looking for room up the middle on a second down handoff. Wilbon surges forward. Parker Hesse, who almost had 6 points to start the day for the Iowa defense, with a tackle right at midfield. Wilbon, the junior from Chicago, 340 yards on the ground this year. They converted a 3rd and long with a pass to Keon Williams. Now 3rd and 6 for Tanner Lee. Lee, and it's batted down at the line. Well, Parker Hesse is going to have an impact on this drive one way or the other. He doesn't have the run back for the touchdown, but he's the one who bats it down at midfield, and it will be a 4th down and a punt for Nebraska.
It's so frustrating for a quarterback. Right here is Hesse, right in the middle of the screen. Watch, he's trying to rush the quarterback, but once he realizes he can't get there, he kind of drops back, and almost like a basketball defender, just gets his arm out and knocks it down. That is so frustrating when you think you have a passing lane and you can't get it there.
Now punting into the wind is Caleb Lightbourne, who's averaged 42 yards a kick this year. The wind doesn't knock that down too badly, and a sure-handed fair catch by Matt Vandenberg to the 15. 35 yards on the punt. And Nate Stanley and Iowa's offense now on the field for the first time, just over 2.5 minutes into the game. The Hawkeyes 6-5, 3-5 in Big Ten play. Nate Stanley has thrown 23 touchdown passes this year, 3rd most of the Big Ten. But for Nate Stanley, after the great performance against Ohio State 2 games ago, it's been rough against Wisconsin and Purdue over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but he's made some pretty good decisions all season long. Only needs 4 touchdown passes to catch Chuck Long, a record that stood since 1985 for Iowa.
Officially from the 16, Akram Wadley stumbles over the defensive line and surges upfield for a gain of 2. And Akram Wadley is a player that we'll see with a lot of opportunities, presumably today against Nebraska's defense. He's a player to watch for.
Absolutely. And typically when you think of Iowa football, I don't know about you, Mark, but I think of ground and pound. They got great linemen, good tight ends. They're going to run the football. They have struggled running the football this year. I'd love to see them try to establish against the Nebraska defense, which has struggled in every area.
127 is what they average on the ground per game. Wadley again, and penetration into the backfield and nowhere to go. Mick Stoltenberg, the junior nose tackle, with the stop for Nebraska. A tackle for loss.
Stoltenberg lined up right over the center. They're trying to scoop up to him. He's got a guy coming for his legs, able to corral it, to get some help from your linebackers. And that's what you're going to have to do to shut down Akram Wadley on the afternoon. One guy's not going to be able to bring him down. You're going to have to gang tackle.
35% on 3rd downs for Iowa. Their first opportunity today is 11 yards, and Stanley throwing over the middle. Wadley's wrestled down, thrown down short of the first down by Nebraska's Colin Miller.
It's an outstanding job for Nebraska. They're getting off the field. The opening drive, they brought some pressure, put their defensive backs in a tough spot. They were able to make the tackle before the first down conversion.
Well, Danny, nothing succeeds like success, and that Nebraska defense has been under a negative microscope with a lot of poor performances. This is a good boost for them to start the day. Colton Rastetter to punt. Winded is back, averages 39 yards. DeMornay Pearsonell, last time that Nebraska beat Iowa, he had 2 great returns, including one for a touchdown. It'll never have a chance. Rastetter had a problem with the snap. Iowa's punting woes continue. Nebraska will have great field position.
Rastetter, the punter, just drops this. This was a good snap right to him. I mean, it just went right through his hands. Not really an explanation for that one. That one's just a tough fielding call. It's a punter. I mean, that's the only explanation I would have for it. He's not your typical football player. It's a punter, because you should be able to field that.
It's Alex Davis who ends up throwing him into the turf. Wilbon is in at running back. A turnover on downs with Rastetter being tackled after the difficulty handling the snap, that is, for the 15-yard line now. Nebraska will start on their second series. We've seen a near momentum turning play to start the game with Iowa overturned on replay. A definite momentum setting or turning play with this miscue on special teams.
And this is for Nebraska. You have to capitalize on this opportunity. Find a way to punch this in the end zone. See if they can get Morgan involved early and take a shot to the end zone.
Falling behind has been a problem for Nebraska in Big Ten play, but they have an opportunity to go in front. And they had Stanley Morgan running behind the defense, but the pass is tipped before it reaches him. Morgan behind the defense, hoping to grab his 9th touchdown reception of the year. It will be 3rd down.
I think even those types of passes, Tanner Lee was trying to throw a touch pass to the corner of the end zone. It's really tough to judge the wind and what impact it's going to have on the ball. That one just kind of sailed on him, a little bit overthrown.
And we were down on the field before the game, and the stadium is not really providing nearly as much shield from the gusty winds as you might think. It's a problem down there. It's felt down there for sure. On 3rd down, it's a throw into the end zone. What a catch! Stanley Morgan Jr. holds it in with one hand. Touchdown, Huskers.
What a scene.
Yeah, as the balloons go soaring into the air on the first touchdown of the day for Nebraska. It's Stanley Morgan Jr. He does have that 9th touchdown reception of the year after nearly picking it up on 2nd down.
What an unbelievable catch from Stanley Morgan in traffic, too.
Extra point extends the lead to 7-0. Drew Brown nails it as he's done the previous 35 times this year. Such a nice sketch. You're going to see it now. You'll probably see it again. Laying out the right hand. Great grab by Stanley Morgan Jr. to give the Huskers the lead. Nebraska's scoring drive, a short one set up by the muffed snap on the Iowa punt. On 3rd down, Stanley Morgan Jr. with a 14-yard touchdown grab. And that gives Nebraska on their 2nd series of the game their first down before the 361st consecutive sellout dating back to 1962 at Memorial Stadium.
I was wondering how a crowd would be in a 4-7 season, even though it's Lincoln, but man, have I been impressed with the showing you're getting here today. Full house, everybody's, as excited as you would be as if the team was undefeated.
Brown with the kickoff, angling toward the sideline, and well placed, and he stepped out of bounds. Amir Smith-Marset steps out at the 1. The Iowa special teams is causing all sorts of problems for them today.
Boy, it's a fantastic kick right in the corner there, and Marset, as a true freshman, has to realize where he is on the field. It's tough as you're tracking that kick coming your way, but you have to be aware of where you are on the football field at all times.
Things just got really uncomfortable for Nate Stanley and Iowa's offense. Akram Wadley, he won't even receive the handoff, lined up as the I-back, plunging forward for some breathing room is Nate Stanley out to the 3.
That's exactly what that was all about. Just see if you can get a yard or two so you have a little bit more room to work with, trying to avoid that safety. So now they're on the 3-yard line, but now as opposed to the 1.
Stanley's thrown for nearly 2,200 yards this year. Wadley has run for over 860. We'll see if they call his number for just a little bit more wiggle room, and they do. And he has more than wiggle room. He goes to the outside, made a great cut, then a stutter step, and now things look a whole lot better for Aquan Wadley and the Hawkeyes.
You know who I would not want to be? I would not want to be a safety having a matchup. Watch number 24, Aaron Williams, trim up and try to fill this hole. He's got a big, this is basically open field tackling drill. Watch him whiff. That's just tough to ask anybody to do because Wadley has the skills to make a guy miss, and that's what you're supposed to do as a running back. The line's going to take care of that front seven. You have to make the safeties miss.
Wadley aiming for his second straight 1,000-yard rushing season. He's in motion this time. He just caught his 26th pass on the earlier drive. So this time it will be the transfer from Nevada, James Butler, who's run for 328 yards this year. Doesn't really add to his total. The play strung out to the right sideline, barely back to the line of scrimmage, if that.
That's one way to shut down Wadley is get penetration up front so you're playing on his side of the line of scrimmage.
Then Stilley had that defensive penetration, among others, for Nebraska. Hawkeyes second down and 11. An offense that averages 26 points per game this year. And that is a great catch down the right sideline by Vandenberg. Hauled it in at the 42. Remember, this drive started at the 1, and Iowa has already moved over 40 yards.
What a beautiful throw here. Here's Vandenberg on the outside, just matched up, bump and run coverage. So you know as a quarterback you're going to have a chance to hit that fade route, but beautiful touch pass, hit perfectly in stride for Vandenberg, who lays out and goes to get it. Beautiful execution.
Tying Desmond King today for most appearances in Iowa football history. His 53rd game today, Matt Vandenberg. Straight into the middle of the line on first down for Wadley. Nick Stoltenberg. Second down and 9 for Iowa. Winners in this game 40-10 for the Heroes Trophy last year in Iowa City. Dominant rushing performance all around by the Hawkeyes. Stanley with a short drop. Incomplete. Was looking for Amir Smith-Marset, covered by Chris Jones. Third and long for the Hawkeyes now.
Nebraska corners have been very aggressive on the outside, lining up in bump and run coverage, saying, you know what, we don't respect your speed. You're going to have to beat us over the top. And you know what, I would too, because those fade routes are really tough to complete in these types of conditions.
Did complete one a moment ago to Vandenberg. Now for the 42.
Bump coverage all the way across. They're daring him to go over the top.
And they'll go underneath, and Smith-Marset catches, turns up the middle, and has a first down. Tackled right at the marker at the Husker 48.
Now that you get those corners bumped up, tight coverage, you get them caught up in some traffic. It also gives you an opportunity to get some good blocks. See the block there by Nick Easley, number 84. You block one corner who's blocked up man-to-man, make him miss. All of a sudden, that's how you extend plays. Now we got a fourth down here.
The spot wasn't as good as it initially looked like it might be. Smith-Marset was just short. Fourth and less than a yard. Quarterback sneak going for it. And they're 14 of 19 now on fourth downs this year as Stanley was able to wedge himself into a seam and fall forward for the first down.
Right behind his guard, Sean Welsh, just leading those big boys up front. And they've really got some solid push where it was pretty easy conversion for Nate Stanley just to fall forward.
Welsh, who Stanley ran behind in his 48th career start today, the senior from Springboro, Ohio. Now with a fresh set of downs for the 47. The bootleg and a low throw is caught by Nick Easley. Down to the Nebraska 45 after a gain of 2.
Front of the coverage of number 3.
Like this game plan for Iowa early, trying to establish the line of scrimmage, get some run game going back from Wadley, but also a nice little mix of play action pass and taking their shots downfield to try to get some breathing room on the outside.
Wadley in the backfield on second down. 10th play of the drive. Wadley gets blocks on the edge, has a hole to burst through, and a first down.
Carry by number 25, Wadley.
Forced out by Joshua Kalu. Remember, the drive started on the 1. You know, one of the things that Kirk Ferentz told us this week, and specifically as it related to the Purdue game, he said that they were outworked, outperformed, outplayed, and outcoached, and there were just entirely too many self-inflicted errors. Remember that there was a self-inflicted error with stepping out of bounds on the kickoff at the 1 to start this drive, but they moved it now all the way to the Husker 36. Play fake by Stanley. Has time in the pocket, but overthrows Nick Easley.
This offense has been all over the map. They went out and dominated against Ohio State, put up 55 points against them, but struggled the last couple weeks trying to find their rhythm today. And a lot of times it's about finding a rhythm, gaining confidence, you know, seeing a couple passes completed like they did on this drive with that early fade route for the big first down.
And one of the real difficulties protecting Stanley over the last 2 weeks, surrendering 10 sacks. Smith-Marset sidesteps 1 tackle and 2 and almost a third. Joshua Kalu hangs on and got enough of Smith-Marset to keep him from gaining any more yards, but this is to the Nebraska 22.
It's college football's favorite play, just a little bubble screen pass. You try to get it in the hands of your athletes and then let them block for each other. You're going to see Smith-Marset just takes that little swing bubble pass. He gets also a good block from his wide receiver out there, his buddy. And then you trade it off. Then you say, hey, I'll get you this time, you get me the next time.
Brandon Smith's the one who had the block. Now it's a bullet throw to the left side this time for Smith-Marset. Kalu in again on a tackle along with Marcus Newby at the 20. This drive has now covered 79 yards. And officially 80. They've put it down to the 19 of Nebraska. Newby, who was one of the 2 players for Nebraska, part of that tackle, who's starting with Luke Gifford out at linebacker, is now down and injured. There's a timeout on the field. The Huskers up by 7. FS1 College Football is sponsored by Wendy's Fresh, Never Frozen Beef Hamburgers, the official hamburger of the NCAA. Kirk Ferentz, who told us that there were too many self-inflicted errors last week against Purdue, had a self-inflicted error for his team on this drive. They stepped out of bounds on the kickoff at the 1, but the drive has covered 13 plays and over 80 yards. Nate Stanley changing the play on second down. And it's a handoff to Akram Wadley. His previous run was his 500th carry at Iowa. And the run is stopped at the line of scrimmage by Mick Stoltenberg, who's been very, very busy today, the junior from Gretna, Nebraska.
I'd be curious to see if Nebraska dials up some pressure in this area of the field. Third down here. I try to get a sack, kick them back further, make that field goal tougher.
Remember the graphic that we showed a moment ago. Iowa has been sacked 10 times in the last 2 weeks. Nate Stanley dealing with the noise, making sure everyone had heard the change.
Timeout, Iowa. Their first timeout of the half.
Barely got the timeout before the play clock expired. Timeout, Iowa. They're driving Nebraska the 7-point lead. This is in a Big 12 shootout. Then at 10 Eastern back here on FS1, Cal takes on UCLA. College football continues tonight on FS1 and Fox, or stream it live on Fox Sports Go. 3rd and 8, 20-yard line at Nebraska for Iowa. What are you thinking here on 3rd down, Danny?
I'm thinking you're finding Vandenberg, your favorite receiver, on the down here at the bottom of the screen. Looks like he's going to have man coverage too.
Nick Easley is in the slot. Wadley's the running back. Wadley on the handoff, a cutback, bumped into a lineman, breaks a tackle, and runs it in for a touchdown for Iowa.
Mark, I didn't see that coming. I thought for sure it was a passing situation. Clearly Nebraska did too.
And that's why it's a good play call by
Yes.
Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator.
Absolutely is. Just a little counter action in the backfield. And again, Akram Wadley makes the first guy miss in the second level. And if you can do that so many times, you'll be able to get those extra yards. See those big pulling guards coming around. At big 79, Sean Welsh leading the way. And Wadley's elusive enough to make those secondary players miss. If you can man up and lock those guys down up front, he's going to make some big plays like that one.
As Mike Riley and Kirk Ferentz look on, there is an injured player for Nebraska, and it's Stoltenberg, who's already been very busy early on in the game. Mick Stoltenberg limping off.
When you're a 3-4 defense, you need a dominant nose tackle, and that's what Stoltenberg has been for this defense. And Stoltenberg in the middle of the screen, just see some bodies rolling around that, down around your legs. He gets rolled up.
From Mason City, Iowa, this is Miguel Racinos. Perfect on extra points this year. And for the Hawkeyes looking for their 7th win of the season, they have their first 7 points. Wadley, the 20-yard touchdown run on 3rd down. They tie the game. Iowa's tied Nebraska 7-7. Coming off a loss to Purdue last week and a 38-24 loss to Wisconsin the week before. That was after the 55-point outburst against Ohio State. Jalen Bradley is back deep to receive. Mike Riley told us this week, offensive coordinator Danny Langsdorff as well, they wanted to get him some touches. The freshman has been involved some this year, but also battled injuries, but he won't get a touch here in the kicking game because Racinos blasted through the end zone for another touchback. This is the 20-yard touchdown run for Akram Wadley. Now, the last 20 yards covered is impressive, but keep in mind that that had covered 79 yards before then. It's a 99-yard drive, Danny.
Everybody pitched in a little bit. You grinded it out, took 7 minutes off the clock. You really dominated the time of possession here in this first quarter so far. Now, if you're Tanner Lee, you're trying to come back on the field and find some rhythm, momentum back to getting your team back in this game.
From the 25. And running out of one tackle is Devine Ozigbo. Josie Jewell, the leading tackler for Iowa and 3rd in the nation. The great senior linebacker Josie Jewell stops Ozigbo after a run of 3.
He's had an incredible career. Josie Jewell is 3-time captain. Never seen that before in the history of Iowa football. It speaks volumes to the type of leader he is, and Kirk Ferentz raved about his impact on this program.
Spots at the 29, so it's a gain of 4 before the 118th tackle this year for Josie Jewell for Iowa. Penetration to the backfield by Epinesa, the freshman defensive end, but running straight up the gut after eluding that tackle was Ozigbo. Miles Taylor a tackle, but right at the 35 for a first down. You know, as we watch Nebraska start to move here, think about that Iowa drive, Danny. Amir Smith-Marset on the kickoff stepped out at the 1-yard line, then had 26 yards of receptions on the drive.
I love it. A lot of coaches might have taken a guy out for making what looked like a boneheaded play, but they stuck with him and even gave more opportunities to make up for his mistake.
Looks like that's Miles Taylor, one of the safeties for Iowa, down right now. They're already down a man when it comes to safeties. His backup, Amani Hooker, is unavailable due to injury. Jake Gervais and Geno Stone are the other options at safety. Gervais the starter, and Stone backs up both positions.
Just a little draw route. You see Epinoza whiff, and here comes Taylor into the picture, number 19. As Miles Taylor made the tackle, you didn't see anything that looked obvious. It's good to see him walking off the field.
And from the Hawkeyes' perspective, not just good to see him walking off the field, but also from their lack of depth at safety.
Well, and if you're Nebraska, It's time to dial up a play. Take your shot play here. You've got backups coming in. You've got a freshman at left corner. You got a freshman now in backing up where Taylor left off. So take your shot down the field here.
Geno Stone just came in for at least this play. As Danny noted, a freshman. He's from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Has 1 pick this year. Last minute of the first quarter. First quarter had seen a touchdown pass for Nebraska from Tanner Lee to Stanley Morgan Jr. And then a 20-yard TD run by Akram Wadley. Jalen Bradley has his first chance for a touch today. The freshman from Bellevue, Nebraska, has run the ball now 16 times this year. Nathan Bushida with the stop for Iowa after a gain of 3.
3-yard gain off the play, brings up second down and 38.
With the clock running down here, Nebraska's probably going to let the quarter run out. Maybe get the wind at their back to take that shot down the field. That might have been something they were considering.
Yeah, there certainly wasn't a sense of urgency to snap the ball here late in the first quarter for Nebraska going into the wind. They'll flip sides now and have that wind at their back when we return for the second quarter for the Heroes Trophy in Lincoln, Nebraska. After 1, Stanley Morgan Jr. the touchdown for Nebraska. Akram Wadley the TD for Iowa. Welcome to FS1 College Football presented by Volkswagen. It is a fantastic day in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, the wind is blowing, but it was a record high temperature today and yesterday, for that matter. For Nebraska now, for the first time of the game, with the wind at their back, they're not ready yet to take the deep shot. Jalen Bradley runs it for the second straight time, and he's dropped at the line of scrimmage by Ben Neiman. Numbers from the first quarter, 98 total yards for Iowa. They had a 99-yard drive. Their first drive lost yardage because of a fumbled snap by punter Colton Rastetter. On third down, Lee to throw. And he goes over the middle and finds his tight end right at midfield. Sure-handed grab by Tyler Hoppus. I'm sorry, that's Jack Stoll. Stoll with just his 8th catch this year. They throw it to Hoppus a lot at tight end as well for 13 yards just over midfield.
Yeah, Stoll just running up, just a little curl route. Just goes to a spot in the middle of the field. Quarterback knows exactly where he's going to be, and you hit him before the safety comes up for the tackle. Nice execution from Tanner Lee to Stoll.
From Lone Tree, Colorado, with his 8th catch this year. Tyler Hoppus has caught 30 passes. Now Jalen Bradley running. Looked like he had a head of steam, Danny, but he could not run out of a strong tackle by Josie Jewell.
And that's what you expect out of Josie Jewell, the middle linebacker position. He comes up, scrapes around those defensive linemen in front of him, and wraps up and tackles as good as anybody in the Big Ten Conference and maybe even the entire country.
The key thing that Kirk Ferentz told us this week about Josie Jewell from Decorah, Iowa, was that they almost didn't recruit him, but his team won in pretty much any sport that he played. And so that drew him and them to Josie Jewell. And here's another bullet pass off the play fake. Tanner Lee with the completion. Pearsonell has it. And into field goal range inside the 30. The drive moving for Nebraska to the Iowa 27-yard line.
Now you're starting to see Nebraska finding some rhythm. Just a little draw fake. We've seen a bunch of these draws run out of the shotgun. So the linebackers start to suck up just enough where it opens some passing lanes for Pearsonell. It's just a simple slant route, just a flat slant concept, and it's a quarterback. You see that passing lane, you love it.
Injured J.D. Spielman today, but along with Morgan and Pearsonell, Nebraska has 3 of the top 10 in the Big Ten in receiving yards per game. A run by the freshman Bradley. Bradley making an impact on the drive, churns down to the 20-yard line before he's hit by Ben Neiman.
Now you're starting to see some holes open up from this offensive line, giving Bradley some opportunities, much like we saw Akram Wadley for Iowa, making guys miss. That's when you start popping out 7, 8-yard runs. Start giving a little more space for these running backs to run for both teams.
Some fresh legs, some eager legs for the freshman Jalen Bradley to the Iowa 20. Nebraska trying to put it into a 3-game losing streak. This is Bradley, who can't bounce it outside. Wrapped up by Nathan Bushida from Howells, Nebraska. 287 pounds, eating up space and eating up Bradley on that run in the middle of the line.
Mazda and Hesse on the outside. Good job of forcing Bradley back to the inside. I thought maybe he had a chance to get outside for a second, but I was able to push him back to the middle.
10th play of the drive. 3rd down and 2. Nebraska 3 for 4 today on 3rd down, and Lee's pass is batted down. Matt Nelson, interior of the defensive line for Iowa, the junior from Cedar Rapids. We've seen a couple of batted down passes today by the Iowa defensive line now.
That's, again, I talked about the frustration from a quarterback standpoint before. You think you have a passing lane, you go to make it, and these defensive linemen, they're just sitting back there surveying the quarterback's eyes. Once they realize they can't get there, they almost turn into shot blockers. They're trying to bat that ball down.
For his 60th field goal, they fake it. The holder, Darlington, pitched it into the middle on a shovel pass, and it goes nowhere. Bajita read it all the way, and on a fake field goal on 4th down, Iowa with the stop. Zach Darlington, the holder, tries the shovel pass here. They're looking for the fullback, Luke McNitz, and Bajita. Outstanding job for the Hawkeyes special teams who turn the tables. Nathan Bajita with the tackle on the fake field goal attempt. Coming back to Nebraska.
I didn't love this call, Mark, to be honest with you. I thought it was a spot you could have taken some points. But hey, if it worked, we would have been saying great call.
We'll have a chance to look at it in a moment. Right now, James Butler is the running back for Iowa. Stanley to hand it to him. Butler with a gap to run and then grabbed by the ankle. Down he goes by Khalil Davis. Let's go back and look at the fake field goal now, Danny.
They're going to try to fake, the little watch the kicker's going to go here, and then they're going to have an underneath shovel. That's McNitt underneath, and you're going to try to shovel it to him, but there was penetration from all sides. Iowa had 4 guys that could have made that play. I don't think that was a designed read where it's a numbers thing. That was just a, hey, we're going to try to outfox them here and fool them with a fake field goal. I just didn't like it at this point in the game.
Quick pass, Easley. Easley had 1 block on the edge from Vandenberg, then bumped out of bounds for Iowa. 10:44 left in the second. Wadley the touchdown for Iowa. Stanley Morgan Jr. for Nebraska. Iowa special teams have had highs and lows both so far in the opening 20 minutes of the game, haven't they?
Yes, they have. Been all over the board a little bit, but coming off with a big stop there, they weren't fooled one bit by the fake field goal.
5-yard bubble screen to Easley. That went to the right side on the first pass a moment ago. Now to the left side to Easley. And read well by Nebraska by Joshua Kalu, among others.
When they run all these bubble screens, you have to tackle in the open field. You have to shed blocks. Nebraska's done a pretty good job making sure those don't go for long yardage.
Good pursuit to the ball by Kalu. Stanley is now 8 of 10. A lot of underneath throws, though, for the Hawkeye quarterback. 3rd down and 4. Noise level ramps up at Memorial Stadium. Nebraska looking for a hold on defense after Iowa's already picked up 1 first down. Pressure on Stanley, low incomplete. The pressure forced a low throw to Nick Easley, and the pressure came in from DiCaprio Boodle.
Yeah, the pressure on 3rd down is what you would expect from Bob Diaco. And I bet Nate Stanley's wishing he had just a split second more to set his feet and make a throw. Because if he could have hit Easley, he had all day to run if he hit him on a little simple out route.
Mike Riley told us to look for 2 players back to return punts today at times because of the wind. There are 2 back right now. Tyjon Lindsey is the one who picks it up, and he's turning and he's spinning and he's looking for some sort of bailout from a block, but it's not going to happen. He's down to the 25 after the punt. Will return with the score tied at 7 after this. FS1 College Football is sponsored by Wendy's Fresh, Never Frozen Beef Hamburgers, the official hamburger of the NCAA. Players like Joshua Kalu, Tyler Hoppus, Chris Weber, all Honored on Senior Day in Lincoln, Nebraska. 22 outgoing players recognized today. There's Luke McNitt.
Oh, great scenes, man. I love it. These guys suiting up for the last time. It's a day they're going to remember forever.
Mike Riley, when he spoke to you before the game, Danny, talked about the emotion of that aspect of it today. This is another senior, DeMarne Pearson-El, catching the pass and out of bounds right at the first down marker. When we talked earlier in the week with Mike Riley, what he said was, and look, and any coach in America wants to send your seniors off the right way, but he said they've maintained a real consistency in who they are. He said they've had a rough year, but it would have been a lot rougher if they didn't have such a great group of seniors. And that when you get down to the nuts and bolts of what they do as coaches, one of the most important things, the beautiful part of it, he said, is the relationship between coach and player through tough times. Here's a second down pass play, and another one of those seniors stretching forward, Tyler Hawks.
Yeah, beautiful little pop pass to the tight end from Tanner Lee. Starting to find that rhythm a little bit more. Again, just that kind of putting the ball in the belly of the running back just for a split second to get those linebackers to pause ever so slightly. Tanner Lee's quick release able to catch the defense.
Mikhail Wilbon at running back, second down and short for the Huskers. Wilbon picks up the first down and a lot more. 3 plays, significant yardage picked up on all 3 plays of the drive. That run by Wilbon to the Iowa 42.
Beautiful vision from Wilbon. Plays designed to go this way, but you're going to see a cutback right there. Just that subtle little cutback. Sometimes they're designed, sometimes they're not, but that's great vision from Wilbon, recognizing that running lane was not to the play side, but to the backside.
Under the 8-minute mark left of the second quarter. Chance to run the ball for Tyjon Lindsey. And Iowa reads it well. They string it out to the sideline. Josh Jackson, haven't mentioned his name much today. They haven't thrown it his way much so far today, which is something that teams have had to do all year long, not throw it in the direction of Josh Jackson.
Yeah, he's the type of cornerback where you have so much respect for him. You try to design plays, call them away from him, your best chance of success.
Lindsey ran for a yard. At the 41, Lee's pass over the middle is caught. Stacked up at the 30-yard line. Stanley Morgan Jr., who brought about 5 or 6 Iowa defenders down to the ground at the 28.
It's a great matchup. Watch these two going at it. This is Nebraska's best versus Iowa's best. And that's actually really good coverage from Josh Jackson. He's got an arm out there, but there is no defense for a perfectly placed football. That's what Tanner Lee delivered, and Stanley Morgan Jr. came down with it.
He is closing in 4 yards away from the Nebraska single-season receiving yards record, set by Johnny the Jet Rogers in his Heisman Trophy season. A throw by Lee, a throw from Morgan to the end zone. A little bump, a little bit of contact between Morgan, incidental contact between Morgan and Josh Jackson.
Good no call from the officials. I love watching this matchup. Two of these best at what they do. This is just a straight go route. A slight stutter there to the inside. Jackson doesn't buy any of it, runs stride for stride. So on this drive so far, we saw Morgan Jr. get one, and then we saw Josh Jackson get a win.
25 straight games with a reception. His first reception today was the 14-yard touchdown that put Nebraska on the board first. Quick throw by Lee through the hands of Tyjon Lindsey. Covered by Matt Hankins from Marcus High School in Flower Mound, Texas, just outside of Dallas.
Yeah, a true freshman there. Didn't give any ground. Well done. Nice burst on the ball coming up just to stop the hitch route.
Nebraska's had a drive stall out of this vicinity and then opted for a fake field goal. That was earlier in the second quarter, a fake that was snuffed out by Iowa's special teams, notably Nathan Bujita. Lee with a good pocket. And he's throwing for Morgan, and he's open, and he has it. He'll stroll in for the touchdown for the Huskers.
feeling Tanner Lee was going to take a shot, Stanley Morgan Jr., but after he started his route, it got kind of off kilter a little bit. He was out there, stumbled into another guy, but clearly Tanner Lee said, I know where he's going to be at the end of this route. That's the only thing that matters.
967 receiving yards this season. He surpasses Johnny the Jet Rogers school record, and 1,000 yards certainly looks like it's attainable the way he is playing today and the way Tanner Lee has dialed him up as a favorite target, especially with J.D. Spielman out. There's Morgan bumped by Jackson behind the defense, and he grabs his second touchdown reception of the day. Nebraska doubling up Iowa. Nebraska doubling up Iowa on the second touchdown reception today for Stanley Morgan Jr. It caps an 8-play, 75-yard drive. One of the things Danny Langsdorff, Nebraska's offensive coordinator, told us this week is that Morgan has done a really nice job of improving catching balls and traffic. He didn't need to do that then. Wide open on the touchdown grab. And with that, Nebraska has a 7-point lead. Iowa will start at the 25 on the touchback. Let's look at Morgan getting open into the secondary.
I was curious to see how he got so wide open. You're going to see an inside post, and then you're going to see the stem inside, and Morgan's going to come back out to the outside. As you roll this, keep an eye on this safety. Watch where he goes. He goes with the inside post. The minute he does, bam, right there, comes wide open. Josh Jackson tried to get a little bit of a jam on Stanley Morgan Jr., but not enough to throw him off, where Tanner Lee said, all right, I'll take that. That's easy. That's a layup for a touchdown pass.
The tight ends move from the left to the right side of the line. Hawkinson and Fant, they stay in the block. Stanley rolls and throws. It's caught by Vandenberg and slung down right after the catch. Forward progress to the 29. We talked with Iowa defensive coordinator Phil Parker this week and about Josh Jackson. One of the things he said was that he's very good at man. He's decent in zone, but he's got to learn in zone where the threats and the problems are, where the splits, where you divide the guys. You felt like, though, it was the safety that got lost, not Josh Jackson.
That design was specifically designed to attack that safety, and once he made the decision for the inside post, it opened up the corner to the outside.
Wadley running over the 30. Pick up a 2 on second down, stopped by Khalil Davis.
I do feel, though, Josh Jackson needed to get more depth where there's some sort of challenge. You should never have anybody that wide open on that one. All right, Nebraska trying to catch a little momentum here, get their offense back on the field in the third down. Last time they blitzed on third down. See if they do again here.
Boodle got there and forced Nate Stanley into a low throw that was attempted for Nick Easley on that play that Danny noted. Closing in on 5 minutes left in the half in Lincoln. Easley in motion, 3rd and 4. Better pocket to throw this time, but off the hands of Noah Fant, the tight end from Omaha.
That's really exceptional coverage from Nebraska's secondary. They locked up man coverage, no pressure, just rushed 4 up front, but then they locked down every other route. And that put Chris Webber in a single man-to-man matchup against the tight end. And that's, I talk about the perfectly thrown ball. There's no defense for it, just a little bit out of the outstretched arms of his tight end. But good defense.
That was DeMornay Pearson-L, who's back deep. Rastetter, line drive into the wind. Markers are back down because there was contact with Rastetter, the punter. Short return, nothing gained by DeMornay Pearson-L. Dan Capron, the referee.
Running into the kicker. Defense, number 2. The 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
Man, special teams for both these sides. This pretty good job by Rastetter. I know he had the earlier fumble when the ball was right to him, but a pretty good sell job on that one, going down at the first sign of contact, really selling that penalty. But ultimately, if you're a Nebraska punt rusher, you've got to see that in time and be able to steer your way away from that punter and make sure you don't get that called against you.
Tony Butler was the play who bumped into Rastetter. Remember that last weekend there was a stop by Iowa's defense on Purdue's first series. They had a roughing the kicker penalty that kept the drive going for the Boilermakers. Ultimately, they scored. Let's see if Iowa now could take advantage of a miscue like that that's gone in their favor. The 5-yard penalty sustains the drive on 3rd and 4, and a big run by Wadley. Going down, he fumbled, and what a fortuitous bounce right to Smith-Marset. This is all the way down near the Huskers' 30-yard line. A perfect bounce. We saw a rugby punt. That's a rugby-looking bounce and play off the fumble by Wadley to Smith-Marset. Boy, what a pickup.
I mean, Smith-Marset, again, is at an adventurous game, to say the least, but that time comes up the role of hero, recovering that fumble.
How about Joshua Kalu putting a helmet right on the ball? A running play again for Wadley. A good stiff arm by Wadley against Aaron Williams and out of bounds with 4 minutes left in the half.
When Wadley's starting to, this run game, this offensive line really trying to find their rhythm on the left side of this offensive line. You also got to give some credit to the tight end doing a good job blocking as well. And Nebraska earlier in this game was doing a great job gang tackling, making sure they got their form tackling up. Too many arm tackles on Akram Wadley those last 2 runs.
Wadley has gone out. James Butler is in. 2nd and 2. Butler hit at the line, drives forward. Hit on defense by Antonio Reed. Right now we need to check in with Sam Farber in LA for Fox College Football Game Break.
All right, Mark, still hope for an undefeated Florida team to survive this Black Friday. 10-0 UCF hosting 9-1 South Florida. Mackenzie Milton, the quarterback, late hit to Adrian Killens. He takes it in for the score. Central Florida once led by 14. It's now down to 1, 21-20. Golden Knights, one of 3 remaining undefeated teams.
Big game of the American Athletic Conference. On the first down, he has Easley. Stanley throws it to him, and Easley steps out of bounds at the 10.
And that was great execution from Iowa on just a little bootleg pass. As a quarterback, you want to keep the play alive, keep pressuring, keep surveying the field. And as Nate Stanley did that, defense is trying to cover it. They come up and say, hey, I got to get the quarterback. The minute they did that, flips it out to the flat.
This is an uber-efficient day so far for Nate Stanley. Now 10 of 14. A toss to Butler. Has the first down, not much more. Excellent run support, Dedrick Young. Young 4th on this team in tackles. Making his 31st start today, junior from Peoria, Arizona. Picked up a first down. They needed 1. 2 yards down to the 8 for 1st and goal. Remember, running into the kicker penalty helped sustain this drive for Iowa. Another running play for Butler. Contact at the 5. Reed trying to rip the ball away. And Butler is inside the 5, setting up 2nd and goal.
It's about the 4th or 5th run we've seen Iowa working to the left side of that offensive line, whether it's a toss sweep to the left or whether it's just a straight zone stretch play. They are really working that left side, feeling confident. And they're rolling their left guard, too, which is pretty interesting, between Render and Reynolds. Both swapping out every other series.
And remember, they have a redshirt freshman from Detroit. Alaric Jackson is the starter at left tackle. True freshman Tristan Wirfs is the starter on the right side at tackle. On 2nd and goal, James Butler trying to be patient, but too many bodies, too many men on that side of the field, led by Ben Stilley for Nebraska. Nowhere for him to go.
No, finally you got some penetration. Stilley just fights off a tackle. See him right there in your screen. Able to fight his way through that offensive line.
Iowa has run the clock down to the last minute of the half. They have 2 timeouts. They could take one to talk things over if they so choose, but they're ready to go on 3rd and goal at the 5. And the quick roll and throw by Stanley. He finds Noah Fant into the end zone for the 9th time this year for Iowa. He already has the Iowa record for touchdown receptions in a season by a tight end. And the sophomore from Omaha with his 9th TD, his 26th catch. And the drive did end up capitalizing on the special teams mistake. And Iowa ultimately punches it in. They're an extra point away from tying it.
Well, these tight ends for Iowa historically have always been a great weapon for whoever's playing quarterback. And it's been no difference this season. See Fant just coming across in motion, so you get him a free release, and all he does is it's a sprint. He's going to sprint out to the flat, and the ball was even underthrown just a hair, but you got such a big body out there at 6'5", 232 pounds. You just kind of muscle it into him and find a way to get that completion made for the touchdown.
25 seconds left in the half. There is an injured Nebraska player down right now, so let's check in with Mike Hill in Los Angeles and see what's coming up on the State Farm Halftime Show. Mike? It's an 11-play, 75-yard drive, running into the kicker on a punt. Helped advance that drive. The kickoff now into the wind at the 15. Jalen Bradley. Marker comes in.
That ball's on the ground.
Yeah, that ball may have come out. It's hard to see. But
yeah, you know by the players' reactions. Saw those bodies start diving in a pile.
It would be fitting if the half were to end on some sort of special teams play that swung the momentum. But Bradley gets up off the pile with the ball anyway. Was he down?
Yeah,
he's down.
He's down clearly.
There is no foul on the play for an illegal low block. First down.
Coming up on the State Farm Halftime Show, Mike Hill and Petros Papadakis in Los Angeles. They've got a lot to look at from Black Friday. Pitt upsets Miami. College football playoff implications, quite obviously. TCU headed towards the Big 12 title game, playing host to Baylor today at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth. And a report on the matchup tomorrow at the Big House, Michigan and Ohio State, which will be on Fox. Big Ten football on FS1. First half winding down. Iowa has just scored to tie the game. Nebraska has all 3 timeouts. Wind at their back. They don't look initially like they're just going to sit on it, as the pass is caught by Wilbon. Mikhail Wilbon. And that will run out the clock on the end of the first half for Nebraska.
You run a play, see if you can pop a big one, and then you make the decision clearly that wasn't the play. They got a couple yards, say, we're going to take it to half.
2 touchdown catches for Stanley Morgan Jr. for Nebraska. Wadley a touchdown. Noah Fant a touchdown for Iowa. It's tied at the end of the first half, 14-14, and now.
We also know that for Nebraska, as we see the second half kickoff, and it is fielded by Smith Marset. Marset makes a move. Marset has open space to run. He's got the kicker to beat. That is Brown. He beats the kicker. Brown makes another move, and Amir Smith Marset starts the second half with the kickoff run back for a touchdown. Short kick into the wind. Smith Marset runs it back 86 yards. Markers down, but special teams making another huge impact on the game today, potentially.
How about Smith Marset, too? Remember who fielded that kick return earlier in this game at the 1-yard line? Really put his team in a bad spot. Comes up with a huge play there for Iowa. This ball is going to come back a little bit. Geno Stone with a block in the back on the return. But man, electricity coming from Smith Marset. That time gets a much more fieldable ball in the middle of the field, gets some good blocks, and then the speed to get to the outside almost takes it the distance. Pretty good job by the kicker, just slowing him down enough for some other players to come. There's number 9. You saw the block in the back right at the end by Geno Stone. But anyway, exceptional field position for Iowa to start the second half.
After the penalty, they have it at the 22. Wadley runs, got an excellent block at the point of attack, and Wadley lumbers down inside the Nebraska 15. Drake Kulik at fullback from Muscatine, Iowa. The senior delivered a very good block at the line of scrimmage, and the runs down to the 11. That penalty a moment ago for Iowa, by the way, their first penalty of the game. Nebraska's only penalty was the running into the kicker that sustained the Iowa touchdown drive at the end of the half. Easily in motion, they'll give the ball to him on an end around. Nebraska reads this fairly well, and they bump Nick Easley out at the 5-yard line. Forced out by Aaron Williams.
Yeah, Akram Wadley's been the focal point, much like he has throughout his entire career for this Iowa offense. Really tough to tackle in the open field. He's got the touchdown early in this game to put Iowa their first points on the board. Man, he is tough to bring down the open field. 80 yards in the first half, looking to build on that here in the second.
Once he picks up 3 more yards, it will be his 14th career 100-yard rushing effort. Akram Wadley, the senior from Newark, New Jersey. And he has a chance off the left side. They can pick up a first down without scoring, but neither one of those things happen because of the work of linebacker Chris Weber, the talented senior.
Yeah, the captain of this Nebraska defense, a clear leader on this team. He's got a 3.96 GPA. He's going to go to medical school. If the NFL doesn't work out, but he needs another stop here, try to force a field goal. We almost feel like Iowa's got some options here.
As it relates to potentially 4-down territory, this option is fullback Drake Kulik. And again, remember, they can pick up a first down without scoring. They have a yard to play with, so the goal line isn't what Kulik had to reach.
He's going to get the first down, so they're going to fresh set of downs here. Really close. Kulik's trying to power his way in, not stopping. You're seeing Nebraska defenders pulling his feet out from under him, trying any way they can to keep him out of the end zone.
It's ugly in the middle there sometimes, Danny.
Yeah. Look at these tight ends. Man, the tight ends are huge in the red zone for Iowa.
It is a jumbo package for the Hawkeyes on 1st and goal. Wadley hit at the goal line, spins in. Hawkeyes take the lead early in the 3rd quarter. "33 career touchdowns for Akram Wadley, 26 of those rushing, 7 of those receiving. This 1-yard plunge gives the Hawkeyes the lead at 20-14. Miguel Racinos with the extra point. The drive started after Amir Smith-Marset ran the kickoff back for a touchdown. There was a penalty that put them at the 22. And some tough running at the end, first by Drake Kulik, then by Wadley. Iowa has the lead on the road. Welcome back to FS1 College Football, presented by Volkswagen. 6-5 this year, the record for the Iowa Hawkeyes, 4-7 for Nebraska. Iowa on the road, 21-14 they lead. Akram Wadley's 1-yard touchdown run set up by the 74-yard return by Amir Smith-Marset for the first time in the second half. The Huskers offense takes the field when they were on offense in the first half and they needed points. They dialed up Stanley Morgan Jr., who had an excellent first half, including 2 touchdowns.
Did he ever? Clearly Tanner Lee's favorite target. I'd be throwing him to him all the time. That was in traffic, the one-handed grab for the touchdown. This one here, much easier work for Stanley Morgan Jr. And it's been a fun matchup to watch. Him versus Josh Jackson. They've been matched up most of the afternoon. It's been a fun battle to watch out there on the field today.
For Nebraska, they ran the ball for 47 yards in the first half. They threw for 126, and throwing is what they want to do to start the 3rd quarter, but it won't happen after the play fake. Parker Hesse wraps up Tanner Lee for the sack of the 20.
Mark, I'm always curious to see how teams come out after the half. Sometimes you get people come out a little bit sleepy, a little bit dead. And there's Hesse, just goes unblocked. That's inexcusable for an offensive line up front. Tanner Lee never had a chance. And if you're Nebraska, you got to get back into this game. You had such a great first half, going toe-to-toe. Not so much a good start here the start of the second.
If you weren't watching the first play of the game, as Lee throws it here to DeMornay Pearsonell, and he steps out at the 30. The first play of the game was Lee dropping back to throw. He was hit when he threw it. The ball was picked up by Parker Hesse and run in for a score. After review, it was ruled an incomplete pass, and problems trying to throw it happened on the first play of the second half. Numbers, though, all in all, Danny, pretty efficient today for Tanner Lee. 10 for 16.
And more importantly, hasn't made any mistakes with the football. Been a very clean game for Tanner Lee. He's made good decisions.
With 3 catches today, DeMornay Pearsonell now has 100 career catches at Nebraska. Coming back for it is Hoppus, the tight end. That was a 3rd down and 5 throw, and having to come back for it means giving up ground and coming up short of the first down.
Know how far you have to go, and just this little hook route underneath. If you're Hops, you can help out your quarterback. You got to get the yardage you need for that first down. Just short of it, and it might look like something little, but that half yard is the difference between keeping the ball moving and having to punt here for Nebraska.
Haven't seen much of Caleb Lightbourne today. Into the wind. It will roll. Vandenberg picks it up. And something happening positive in the punt return game for Iowa, which has not happened very often at all this year. Luke McNitt with the tackle for Nebraska on special teams. Iowa the ball and up 7. Week 12 continues Sunday on Fox, where most of the country will see MVP frontrunner Carson Wentz and the Red Hot Eagles host the Bears. Check local listings for the game in your area or stream it live on Fox Sports Go. Iowa scored on their first possession of the 3rd quarter. Last week in Iowa City on Senior Day, a windy day, Purdue had the wind in the 3rd quarter and turned that advantage into 14 unanswered points and a 12-point lead. A lead they never relinquished for a win for the Boilermakers over Iowa. Iowa now trying to use that wind at their back here in the 3rd quarter and make something happen, like a deep pass. The tight end Noah Fant is behind the defense, and falling down is the only thing that kept him from scoring. Deep into Husker territory, down short of the 10-yard line.
What an outstanding job by the offensive line, giving protection so Noah Fant could run this route. This was a long developing route by a tight end running all the way across the field. Watch the play action in the backfield. You pick up the blitzing linebacker, allows Stanley just to survey the field. Outstanding job.
And went for 44 yards to Noah Fant, and a big hole and right into the end zone. James Butler, how is that for a quick strike for the Hawkeyes?
Mark, I was worried about Nebraska after the opening kickoff, how they were going to come out of the locker room. Sometimes some team just comes out a little bit more enthused, and Iowa's just going for the jugular right now. You see James Butler reaping the benefits of an offensive line, which has really been establishing themselves at that line of scrimmage.
Point after by Racinos. 2-play drive covers 56 yards. Noah Fant, the catch for the first 44 yards. Then James Butler's first touchdown. Iowa doubling up Nebraska on the road. FS1 College Football is sponsored by Discover Card, the official credit card of the Big Ten Conference. A moment ago, the first Iowa touchdown for James Butler. He transferred from Nevada, where he ran for over 3,300 yards there. Finds the end zone for the first time for the Hawkeyes. And finding the end zone is what Miguel Racinos' kickoff does, and what Iowa has done on their 2 drives. Great field position on the first one, and pretty good field position on the second one, but they just take care of things very, very quickly with 2 plays and 56 yards covered.
Yep, that's what you do. You capitalize on those big play momentum plays. You had Smith Marset with a big kickoff return. Set him up in good field position, come right back, second drive, hammer it home. Nebraska here is in a must-score situation for me. They've got to do something on this drive before this game gets out of hand.
The drive starts at the 25, and Lee rifles his first throw. And it's caught by Hoppus, the tight end. He just set a tight end single-season reception record here at Nebraska with his 33rd catch. Gain of 5 brought down by Ben Neiman. You just said it's a must-score drive. What do you see in the nature of the game right now and the nature of Nebraska and body language that makes you
that's
think that?
that's what I'm most concerned about. Is you're seeing a team that's a 4-7 team. They played a great first half. They got to be able to handle it and carry over some of that poise and composure from the first half to the second.
And Lee's throw is up over Stanley Morgan Jr. and out of bounds. One of the things that Mike Riley told us this week, and that it's dangerous in this game. Your psyche can be fragile, and he specifically pointed to the Minnesota game recently that was a big loss. He said we were so fragile that day, one thing led to another, and we just didn't play. They've got to play right now, though, and they've got an important play in front of them, the Huskers do. 3rd down. They need a long 4 just outside of their 30. Lee's pass is intercepted. The interception by Ben Neiman. Right to the linebacker, Neiman, from Sycamore, Illinois. He's recovered a fumble this year, and now he has a pick against the Huskers.
Hoppus is just going to try to sit down a little spot in the zone there, and you just see the miscommunication. I don't know if Tanner Lee thought he was going to break out on the route. Clearly he thought he was. And the ball was thrown where Hoppus wasn't, and the woes continue here for Nebraska. I mean, this is snowballing in a hurry for the Cornhuskers.
For the Iowa defense, their 17th interception of the year. Top 10 in FBS. They lead the Big Ten in interceptions as a defense, and a tough run by Akram Wadley. First down picked up inside the Huskers 30. A tackle by Aaron Williams. With 9 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, a run of 11 yards for Akram Wadley.
It's a 60-minute game, Mark, and I'm sure that's what's frustrated Mike Riley, what he was talking about. You know, the team being immature, being able to, you know, kind of handle success at certain times. They had a great first half and come out here, and you can already see them starting to just get down on themselves.
Wadley with a hole and a cutback and a bigger hole and an easy touchdown scored. Akram Wadley. For the 2nd straight year, Akram Wadley now is a 1,000-yard rusher. That puts him over that milestone for this season. And this is a 21-point onslaught in less than 6.5 minutes for Iowa. Assuming, of course, the extra point, which extends the lead to 35-14.
Man, it's been credit to Iowa for coming out pouncing, coming out in the second half, ready to go. And, man, they've laid the hammer down here in Lincoln.
And bringing the hammer was Wadley with that long touchdown run. Akram Wadley capped the drive. It was set up by Ben Neiman's interception. He is just the 4th Iowa running back with consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Kirk Ferentz sees his team now up 35-14. In addition, Wadley today has gone into the top 5 in Iowa history in rushing yards. This is a chance for a kickoff return from Jalen Bradley from the goal line. Markers down. Return is out beyond the 20-yard line. And away from the ball, there is some afters going on.
Yeah, some extracurricular activities. Both coaches, you see Mike Riley trying to get Nebraska back to the sidelines. I think it was a Luke McNick, the fullback for Nebraska, was in a
During the return. Holding. Receiving team number 14. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Earlier this week when we talked with Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, been the line coach, now the offensive coordinator in his first season. What he told us about Akram Wadley is there weren't a lot of people after him in recruiting, and he said, I don't know we were smart enough to see anything that someone else didn't see. There were prettier girls we wanted to go to the dance with. They went with other guys. But he said Akram Wadley has come to Iowa City and is a self-made guy. Like a lot of players on their team and coaches on their staff, he's put in the work, and what a great career he's had. Running play after the penalty on the kickoff. Bradley up the gut from the 10 to the 12. Really is great to hear Brian Ferentz speak about not just Akram Wadley, but he sort of personifies a lot of the players who've come to Iowa City, maybe not heavily recruited, but they've come there, they've been taught well, they've worked hard, and Wadley, for example, certainly has great numbers to back it up.
Absolutely. Another guy like Josie Jewell playing linebacker, so winners. Like, you look for winners. I'd rather have a guy who's been on winning and knows how to win than a guy who's a 5-star just because it's based on his potential.
Back to throw now is Lee. They really need something positive to happen, and a flag comes in. That will be something positive. Josie Jewell, among others, on coverage on an incomplete pass. The marker comes in with 7:47 to go on the third. There was a tip on the pass.
Josie Jewell got a hand on it. I believe it was him that might have tipped it just enough where then it would take off the pass interference. Here's Jewell right there. Does he get that ball? Does he tip it? Because if he does, they'll pull those flags off the field.
There is no foul for defensive pass interference. The ball was tipped. Brings up third down.
Yes, the officials got it right, able to talk about it. And Nebraska's still looking for a break. Josie Jewell right there. It's just enough of that ball. Once it's tipped, those receivers are fair game.
The senior Josie Jewell has 8 pass breakups this year. He's second to Josh Jackson in pass breakups for this Iowa defense. Now 3rd and 8, Nebraska. To throw it, Lee. Batted down. Coverage by Matt Hankins against the intended receiver to Mornay Pearson-El.
So another 3 and out for Nebraska after an interception stopped the last drive. Now you got to wonder how Nebraska's defense is going to be with not much rest, having to come out try and get a stop, and what's probably going to be tough field position for Nebraska defensively.
Caleb Lightbourne. It's a good kick into the wind. A little bobble. Vandenberg runs it over midfield into Cornhuskers territory. Let's take a look at the current Big Ten standings presented by Discover. You know that Iowa is bowl eligible. Purdue and Indiana are playing to go to a bowl game and for the Old Oak and Bucket. But perhaps the most important thing is that with the Big Ten championship game presented by Discover coming up next Saturday, Wisconsin and Iowa State will play, and the game will be on Fox on December the 2nd. And Wisconsin, they're certainly intrigued, to say the least, Danny, about the result today between Pitt and Miami.
Yes, they are.
A snap for Iowa here from the 47. And Wadley continues to have a lot of room to run inside the 40.
The thing with Wisconsin, Mark, is they're sitting at the top of the standings. They have that 0 in the loss column. That is all that matters. They control their own destiny. For me, if they win out, they are a lock for the playoff. But because of that 5 there, and Miami had a 2 in front of their name,
right,
that means Miami will drop behind them. But ultimately, I don't think it matters for Wisconsin. It didn't matter. If they win, they're going to be in. I think now it comes into play for Ohio State. Now, as a 2-loss team, if they win the Big Ten, they're also much more in play now.
0, the most important aspect of that graphic in terms of number of losses. But perhaps more impressive is the 13, as in 13 points surrendered per game for the second best scoring defense in FBS.
That defense is filthy for Wisconsin. They've been shutting people down all season long, and yet for whatever reason, the national landscape still doesn't respect that team, and it drives me nuts that people wouldn't see them as a championship contender with that defense and Jonathan Taylor running the football and Alex Hornibrook making pretty good decisions as a quarterback in that system.
Second down. Iowa, by the way, has gone over 300 yards of offense. They're closing in on 200 rushing yards. They're at 190. They won't tack on anymore, though. Well read by Alex Davis on defense for Nebraska on the running play for Iowa's Akram Wadley. A loss to the 32. Since the start of 2015, Iowa, when they run for over 100 yards, they have a record of 26-1. They're at 189 after that running play. Kulik, the fullback, with a block, but Wadley, other than that one block from Kulik, was unable to separate from the Nebraska defense. Carlos Davis with a tackle. Ball is inside the 30-yard line with 2 yards needed for first down, with a fourth coming up.
And Iowa, the way they've established the line of scrimmage, I think they're going to say, you know what, we're going to put this on our offensive line. Bring in James Butler, the running back, who we saw him carry a couple guys in the end zone earlier in his touchdown run, and say, hey, let's go ahead and take the risk here on fourth down.
Iowa went for a fourth down earlier and converted. That was when they need just inches around midfield. This time they need a full 2 yards, and Butler doesn't get it.
Boy, did Nebraska need that stop in a huge way to try to regain some momentum in this game. You see a bunch of linebackers come up and make the play from the second level. Number 95, Ben Stilley coming around there, shedding a blocker. But then it's just a bunch of red jerseys coming up. It's gang tackling. Now, remind you something, Mark. It might look like, hey, this game is completely swung out of control. But last week against Penn State, Nebraska put up 34 points in the second half. So they're capable of mounting a comeback. They've got to get something going offensively.
Safety Marcel Dismuke had some penetration in the backfield that helped that play out. Now a deep throw and inside position for Josh Jackson and Geno Stone. And it's incomplete, nearly intercepted by Iowa.
I guarantee you Josh Jackson wanted that one back. Exceptional ball skills. He leads the country in interceptions with 7. Had 2 hands on it. And Stanley Morgan Jr., who's one of the best wide receivers Nebraska's ever seen, are fighting for it. Man, that was an incredible play. Just great athleticism for both parts. And ultimately, nobody comes down with it.
Jackson leads FBS with 7 interceptions. Could tie a school record with an 8th, and he was so close to it. Now it's a throw to the tight end, Tyler Hoppus. Wrestled down outside the 45. First down picked up by Nebraska. I do think your point earlier about the fourth down stop is certainly very noteworthy. There's still not only the track record they had for the second half last week, but there's still a quarter and almost 5 full minutes to play.
Yep, plenty of time left. For me, it was more an emotional thing for this Nebraska. They need something going to get the momentum back. They could have something good happen. That fourth down stop was it.
They nearly then threw an interception on first down, which is another break they catch. 18-yard pass play on second down to Hoppus. And quarterback Tanner Lee hit as he threw it. Complete to midfield.
That was really close to being disastrous. Watch the right side. Over here's the pressure. And the right tackle, again, that's a true freshman. Brandon Hymas has struggled, to say the least. And a couple times from that right side has had guys getting pressure on him. That time just barely avoids that sack.
Was pressured by Anthony Nelson, the sophomore from Urbandale, Iowa, from midfield. Faking the throw, delayed handoff. Haven't seen many running plays for Nebraska, and especially a positive one here in the third quarter. Mikael Wilbon inside the 40 to the 39 of the Hawkeyes.
Just a nudge, a showing pass. Gives to Wilbon. A couple nice moves up front, good blocks. Now Nebraska's offense starting to feel some positive momentum.
Gain of 11 for Wilbon. Lead a throw, a bit off balance, and the receiver goes down. There is contact between Stanley Morgan Jr. and Josh Jackson, and there is a flag down. Took a while for it to be thrown, but the marker's down.
And these officials are still talking about it. I feel like, and that to me was very clear pass interference. We'll have to see. They're waving this off potentially, saying that it was incidental. But I felt like Josh Jackson grabbed Stanley Morgan on his way down.
There was no foul for defensive pass interference. There was foot entanglement. Both players were clear in the area. Second down.
I get it when there's foot entanglement, but when there's foot entanglement, I don't feel like you should be able to grab the receiver and bring him down with you. There's Jackson as he's going. There is foot entanglement, but he also crosses him up with his arms. I feel like that was a missed call from the officials.
I do appreciate, though, the explanation behind why they made the decision. There was no doubt left by Dan Capron. Now Wilbon will bounce the run toward the perimeter. 7-yard gain to the 32. Geno Stone the tackle.
Now they're running. The feet do get tangled, but Josh Jackson's arms also as well help bring down Stanley Morgan Jr.
This is third down, a long 3. Nebraska 4 for 9 on third down today. A drive that is moving along. They need points. They had a fourth down stop to start the drive, and the pass to Wilbon, and he is thrown down. Talk about the ball skills of Josh Jackson, but how about the tackling ability of Josh Jackson in the open field against Wilbon?
He's just a great athlete. He's a good football player. Showcasing the ability to be a complete defensive player, not just a one-dimensional player in coverage, but also being able to come up and tackle somebody. Now fourth down for Nebraska, with the spot of that football being just short. We'll have to see if they can get this less than half a yard to keep this drive going.
A drive that's chewed up over 5 minutes. Play clock is a factor right now. They rush to the line. They hurry to the line. And Mike Riley gets the timeout. Here in Lincoln, the timeout. Iowa 35, Nebraska 14. Now here's a Carl's Jr. and Hardy's game break with Greg Wolf.
Mark, thanks. Missouri's won 5 straight. Quarterback Drew Lock has been a big reason why earlier against Arkansas set the SEC single-season record for touchdown passes. Here he finds Jamon Moore, 5th touchdown toss of the afternoon, 43rd this season. Arkansas has added a field goal. It's all tied at 45 in the fourth quarter. Mark, Danny, back to you.
Here in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Had to take that timeout, right? Considering how much the play looked coming out of the huddle.
Yeah, that's Mike Riley. That's his position when he recognizes kind of how frantic things were and how desperately needed to get that off. This is a critical play. I know you're down by 3 touchdowns, but you have to get this conversion if you want to fight your way back into this game. So ultimately, you can't set back and take a 4th and 6th. You've got to get that timeout and make sure you get this play called effectively.
52% on the year going into play today. Nebraska on fourth down, 0 for 1 today. Remember, they'll have the wind at their back in the fourth quarter if they can produce something out of this drive at the end of the third.
Oh, man, just a critical penalty for Nebraska.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense, number 8. That's a 5-yard penalty, and it's still fourth down.
I still think you go for it. And with how much you're down in this game, why not? And I don't know if you noticed that, Mark, but they were going to call a play action, which I thought was pretty gutsy.
This will move it back now to the 35. And Mike Riley's been in the coaching business a long time. It will add a few more gray hairs to have a penalty like that out of a timeout. On 4th and 6, Tanner Lee, underneath throw, and Geno Stone, a big hit on Stanley Morgan Jr., short of the first down, and Iowa responds after Nebraska stopped the Hawkeye offense on 4th down to start this drive. Iowa gets the ball back with a turnover on downs.
What a play from Geno Stone. A lot of young players on both sides of the ball today for Nebraska and Iowa. True freshman just young players. This point of the season, getting them experience. Stone, great route recognition from the safety position. Saw the shallow cross coming across, then exploded up and made the open field tackle.
And remember that Geno Stone getting a lot of snaps today, even more so than what might have been planned, because Miles Taylor went off with an injury in the first half. Taking over at the 32. Iowa with a 21-point lead. Throw back the other way, and nearly caught by T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end.
Boy, great deception with the play action pass from Nate Stanley. Ton of misdirection on that play with a little boot rollout. Going against the grain back the other way. Almost had it. Really, the wind, as bad as it's been, there have been 30-mile-an-hour gusts for the most part of the afternoon. Hasn't impacted the passing game for either team so much.
Numbers today for Nate Stanley, 12 of 17, 124 yards. And he throws his 18th pass on a pump fake, and the route was jumped, but Noah Fant caught it, and Noah Fant is streaking down the sideline and dives in for the touchdown for Iowa. 68 yards for Noah Fant, second TD of the day.
Man, if you're going to go for an interception, you better make sure you're going to get it. Or at very worst, bat the ball down. This can be celebrated.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct. Offense number 87. The 15-yard penalty will be assessed on the kickoff. That is the first unsportsmanlike conduct foul on number 87. We will have the try for point.
That's his 10th touchdown this year. Noah Fant from Omaha South High School.
Number 8, see Chris Jones for Nebraska go for that interception. If you're going to take that gamble, you got to make sure you, at the very least, bat the football down, because you got to know there's nobody behind you if you miss that.
Danny, this is now a 28-point third quarter for Iowa. 1:20 remaining in the third quarter. 28 catches, 10 touchdowns. That is making the most of the times that you're targeted.
Yes, it is. That's efficiency at its best.
Kirk Ferentz still talking to him about the unsportsmanlike conduct, to the referees about that. Again, from Omaha, 3 catches today, 116 yards, 68 of those on that pass play. 2 touchdowns today. Remember that Fant caught it for a touchdown for Iowa right at the end of the half. It's 28 points in the third quarter, and we should add that it's 35 unanswered points for Iowa, since Nebraska had a 14-7 lead and got a stop and ran into the kicker on a punt for Iowa late in the second quarter. They turned the rest of that drive into a march down the field for a touchdown, and the Avalanche has just kept on rolling and pushing downhill ever since.
Yeah, it's been that type of year for Nebraska. Just a tough one here in the second half. This game has really snowballed on this team, who really had a great first half.
Pick up by Racinos and into the end zone for a touchback over Jalen Bradley. Well, what has happened in the third quarter is something that really has typified this season for Nebraska. There have been difficulties for the Cornhuskers all year long. They lost to Northern Illinois in non-conference play. Athletic Director Sean Eichhorst was shown the door in September. Bill Moose from Washington State was brought on as the new athletic director. Mike Riley and Nebraska have lost 5 of their last 6 games, only missing a bowl game for the 5th time since 1962. There have been rumors that have surfaced late in the year, not only of the impending lack of a future for Mike Riley here in Nebraska, but former Nebraska Cornhusker Scott Frost at Central Florida being a target. Josie Jewell breaks up the pass and nearly had an interception.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret. Everybody can kind of read the tea leaves and see Nebraska's most likely going to make a change. And you got to give credit to Mike Riley. I think he knows that. He's been in this business a long time, in his 26th year as a head coach. And I tell you, I don't think I could think of somebody that's handled this with more class than he has. Because it's no fun when you start losing and people are calling for your job, you're getting booed. But he still tried to, be as much as he could a leader for this program through some really tough times.
Well, one of the things that he said this week to us was that there's a microscope on you when you have hard times, but when you get in the room with players, you've got to work with them the correct way, provide stability, give them information for the next go-around, whatever that is. And he said, ultimately, they have to be the adults in the room. And he added that when we talked to him about how he was feeling and how he was doing, he says he has the benefit of years of perspective. We just mentioned all the years as a head coach. That includes at the professional level, 17 at the collegiate level. 3 here in Nebraska, an underneath throw and a great read by Josie Jewell. Nowhere to go for Ozigbo, and Josie Jewell had a batted down pass, nearly an interception on first down, and a play to snuff out the third down try for Nebraska.
This guy is such a fun player to watch as a middle linebacker for Iowa. He's had such an outstanding career and just a great football player. Always has a knack for the ball, a really good feel, reads routes, reads the run game really effectively.
A roll on the punt. Vandenberg and Josh Jackson were back, and they both stayed away from it. Here's Josie Jewell. Watch him here at the end.
There he is, the middle linebacker position. See him, he comes up, got the back in coverage, reads the screen pass to perfection, and comes up and makes the tackle in the open field. 3-time captain for Iowa. First time in school history they've had a player 3 years in a row named a captain.
Danny well over 400 tackles. He's 5th in Iowa history. That is a lot of bone-jarring hits delivered over 4 years. Final seconds of the third quarter. Perhaps the last play. They'll throw it, or they'll look to, and a sidearm throw. It won't be the last play of the third quarter because it's incomplete as Stanley goes sidearm for Vandenberg. 35 unanswered points for Iowa. They started the third quarter with an apparent kickoff return for touchdown. A penalty put them at the 22 of Nebraska, negating the 86-yard run back by Amir Smith-Marset. But they scored very quickly thereafter and have scored quickly on many of their drives, as a matter of fact. They've had an interception by Ben Neiman. They've had a stop on downs as well, as James Butler goes low on the second down run. And that is the last play of the third quarter. 14-14 at the half. Now 42-14 Iowa at the end of the third. The first touchdown by Akram Wadley. On that run by James Butler to go into the end zone. Wadley had a run as well, and the last play to Noah Fant. 42-14 Iowa. Welcome back to FS1 College Football, presented by Volkswagen. It has been a beautiful day in Lincoln, Nebraska, as the sun has set on what was a day of record high temps. 75 degrees on the day after Thanksgiving in Nebraska. Mike Riley only wishes that his team had played as well as the weather was for the 361st consecutive sellout at Memorial Stadium. They did play well for a half, but before a crowd of over 90,000, Iowa erupted for 28 points in the third quarter. Noah Fant scored 7 of those 28. Third quarter stats: 209 yards and a quarter for Nate Stanley and the Iowa offense as they come off the field after the third down incompletion to start the fourth.
28 points, total domination. They had the huge kickoff return to open the half, and they had some great field position to start a couple drives and just really have laid it to Nebraska here.
And there is Colton Rastetter trying to deal with the wind and keep it very low.
They're going to get the ball about the 50 because it hit a Iowa player on the way.
Nebraska will have the wind at their back here at the start of the fourth quarter. but Iowa may have just hit them with too big of a knockout punch in the third quarter.
Yeah, number 97 hit him as he was trying to cover down the field. So Nebraska's going to get pretty good field position right here.
It's the deep snapper, Tyler Kluver, that it hit. Cornhusker field position will be at their own 48 to start their first series of the fourth quarter. Bradley runs the ball. For Nebraska, 1961, the last season they did not win at least 5 games. 1957, the last season with 8 losses. A proud program that is certainly not accustomed to the feelings they've experienced all year long, culminating in what's transpired today. Lead to throw. Incomplete for Stanley Morgan Jr.
These passes incomplete intended for number 8, Stanley Morgan.
Remember that today on this final game of the 2017 regular season, a great redshirt freshman year ended for J.D. Spielman. He didn't get a chance to play today with a shoulder injury. And an 830-yard season, 55 catches, setting freshman records here at Nebraska.
I mean, it was a 1-2 wide receiver punch for Nebraska with Stanley Morgan Jr. leading the way, but J.D. Spielman also a huge contributor for this pass game. You have to wonder what sort of impact him being out would have.
Oh, and this is going to fall into the hands of Josie Jewell. That is a turnover, fumble, interception, whatever it's ruled. Josie Jewell has the ball for Iowa, and once again, how many times has Anthony Nelson been a headache for Tanner Lee and a headache for Brendan Hymas trying to block him? Nelson with the pressure, Danny.
Tanner Lee's had a rough day, and specifically coming from pressure to his right. And Josie Jewell again in the perfect spot, just in the middle of the field. He's going to get tangled in pass pro.
As Anthony Nelson again.
Nelson comes off the edge with the pressure, gets that arm up, and it goes right to Josie Jewell. Man, this is the time now. If you're Iowa's defense, you just start teeing off because you know Nebraska has to throw it every time. Now we'll see if Iowa tries to just lay down some clock.
The 22nd turnover forced by the Iowa defense this year, and they'll give Torrin Young an opportunity to run the ball, something he's done 37 times this year going into play today.
This will be an opportunity for both teams to play some seniors, guys who might not ever get to play the game again in the fourth quarter of the last game of the regular season.
Josie Jewell forcing the turnover. We'll see statistically if they have recorded that as an interception. They have. Now Nate Stanley and Iowa running clock here in the fourth quarter of what's going to be their 7th win. Another opportunity. Now Ivory Kelly Martin is in the game and runs the ball. Young got a carry. Now Ivory Kelly Martin with the run for Iowa. This is now 18 interceptions this year for the Iowa defense. Josh Jackson leads the way, but I think you made an interesting point earlier. It's contagious.
It is. Once a defense starts feeling it, they start seeing other guys get interceptions, then they all start to kind of want in on the party. And that's what's happened for Iowa. The final one here from Josie Jewell. You start thinking, and then more importantly, you start becoming scorers. You start becoming offensive players, and that's what the other thing they've been doing. They've been getting a ton of pick sixes, which is really a weapon.
That's Marcel Dismuke, freshman safety, who's down right now for Nebraska as we take timeout in Lincoln. FS1 College Football is sponsored by Buick, proud partner of the NCAA. Iowa on the road, a 42-14 lead that is, with 35 unanswered points scored. The ball at the 27 of Nebraska. Josie Jewell, an interception a moment ago. They've run 2 plays since. The FBS leading 18th interception of the year for Iowa's defense. Sets up this drive. Played 3 on the drive. Ivory Kelly Martin runs. Freshman from Plainfield, Iowa, with his 16th carry of the season. Also a kick returner as well. Kyron Williams, who was a starter in the defensive backfield for Nebraska and had 5 interceptions last year as a reserve. Aaron Williams also on the stop. Danny, over 400 yards of offense today for Iowa. Nebraska surrendered 475 or more in each game of this 3-game losing streak.
You know, Iowa's got to be wondering, looking back at the season, thinking what could have been as well. I mean, they had Penn State beat, you know, with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter before
Right.
Trace McSorley took them down the field. They played Michigan State to within a touchdown on the road at Michigan State. It was a really tough team. Lost in overtime to Northwestern. There's 3 games right there. You flip the script on just those. You look at a completely different season.
From the 17 on the running play. Ben Stilley stops Ivory Kelly Martin inside the 15-yard line. The most disappointing loss from performance, not from what happened at the end of the game. I think Kirk Ferentz would unquestionably say, and he basically told us that this week, it was Purdue. He said they were outperformed and outcoached and outplayed and outworked. But this is a very big bounce back today to end his 19th regular season, and obviously they have a bowl game out in front. Maybe the Music City Bowl in Nashville, perhaps the Pinstripe Bowl in New York City, in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium is a possibility. Foster Farms Bowl, a bowl game shown here on Fox. Torrin Young from the 14.
Number 28, Torrin Young.
Iowa churning down inside the 10-yard line. And remember that Kirk Ferentz, once this one goes final, will then be 1 away for the man who hired him to be offensive line coach for Iowa from 1981 to 1989. And Hayden Fry from 79 to 98. The great coach in Iowa City, 143 wins, and Kirk Ferentz is nearly there with today's win and the bowl game giving him a chance to tie before the conclusion of the season. 3rd down and short, Iowa. Nate Stanley still in at quarterback, handing it off to Torrin Young. They've gone down the depth chart at running back with Ivory Kelly Martin and Torrin Young with opportunities to carry the ball on the drive, which moves on inside the 5 now.
With Kirk Ferentz in his 19th year as head coach at Iowa, I don't think you're going to see coaches like this anymore. There's too much impatience with college fan bases, and I think it's unfortunate. I think you see fan bases get unrealistic expectations. They start rolling through coaches, and it can really set your program back. I think that's one of the reasons Iowa's been able to consistently be a winner. They've had their moments where they've been able to contend for Big Ten championships, but they've been able to survive some of those lulls. And Kirk Ferentz knows better than anybody, they're going to be ups and downs.
And this is an up. It's a 48-14 lead now for Iowa on the TD run by Torrin Young.
And the route is on here in Lincoln.
You know, one thing you just said a moment ago, Danny, I think is very, very important to close the point on Kirk Ferentz and the concept of patience, because that's exactly what he said about Iowa. People here are more understanding and forgiving. The administration understands it's a competitive conference, and not every year is going to be a championship year. They've obviously had some really good years, and as he said, they've had some ones that weren't so good, but they've tried to work through it when they have. The extra point by Racinos extends the lead, and it has been all Iowa since the late first half. 49-14 now the lead as they head for a win in this game for the 4th time in the last 5 years. Sponsored by Discover Card, the official credit card of the Big Ten Conference. Iowa has scored 35 points in the second half, 42 straight since scoring the last touchdown of the first half and the final minute. Touchback, 9:24 left. Torrin Young had the touchdown run a moment ago as we go back to LA for a game break with Greg Wolf.
Mark, thanks. Number 15, Central Florida, trying to close out a perfect regular season, but their close neighbor, South Florida, not cooperating. Quentin Flowers, 24-yard run for the score. He's thrown for 379 yards, run for over 100. Central Florida, though, has come back to tie it, all tied at 34. Fourth quarter winner goes to the conference championship. Back to you guys.
Wow. And remember that the rank conference champion from the group of 5, as this is a running play for Divine Ozigbo for the start of this drive for Nebraska. So the highest ranked conference champion from the group of 5 ends up going to one of the New Year's Day 6 bowls. The Peach Bowl would likely be the bowl that they would go to this year.
Yeah, the war on I-4 is pretty intense right now. Quentin Flowers, a great player, fun to watch, but UCF's defense is really good. They've got a quarterback who's playing great. And don't forget, they still have to play the American Conference Championship game next weekend as well.
Against Memphis.
Yep.
Throw by Lee from the 28. Down goes Wilbon after he caught the pass.
I hope one day we get to see one of those teams from outside the Power 5 get a chance, a seat at the table, because both those teams are playing really well. I think they could play with anybody. But that's all from my push for an 8-team playoff, Mark. We'll save that for another day.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would too. More football, please. Give it to us.
Play quarterfinals at campus sites.
Love it.
I think we've cracked the code right now in the fourth quarter of Iowa, Nebraska.
That's right.
To throw the ball, Lee. Too tall for tight end Tyler Hoppus. Geno Stone was on coverage. Really impressed with how Geno Stone has jumped in and played today when Miles Taylor went out of the game earlier.
Yeah, you're seeing a couple true freshmen. Matt Hankins at the cornerback position, and Stone stepped in pretty well as a safety. At this point in the season, having played almost an entire year, you'd expect them to feel pretty comfortable out in the football field now. I think Nebraska here, even on 4th down and short, they're kind of saying, hey, we realize what's going on here.
Caleb Lightbourne's punt. A run back by Max Cooper. And stopped shy of the 35-yard line. For the 3rd straight year, Iowa about to be the holders of the Heroes Trophy again. A big lead in Lincoln for the Hawkeyes with 8 minutes remaining. Big lead for Iowa with 42 straight points scored for the Hawkeyes. With 8 minutes remaining, they'll bring in Tyler Wiegers from Detroit Country Day High School. Chris Weber, Shane Battier among those who went to that school. And a big hole for Ivory Kelly Martin. He's bounced it to the outside. Ivory Kelly Martin in a foot race with Marcel Dismuke, who had the angle, and they'll catch him inside the 10. Success in the running game. Big plays just keep happening for the Hawkeyes on offense.
I mean, they have established the line of scrimmage, and now they're just kind of clicking on all cylinders. You got to wonder how much Nebraska even wants to be playing in this game anymore. I don't blame them. Look, it's been that type of year. But, man, you've seen some lackluster tackling for Nebraska, and then you feel a team like Iowa saying, hey, let's roll. Let's get some of these young guys some touches. Let's get some stats. It's turning into a laugher here pretty quickly.
Ivory Kelly Martin's padded the stats with a long run. Torrin Young has helped his stats with a touchdown. Kelly Martin runs it down to the 5 before being hit by Dedrick Young. Iowa won this matchup 40-10 last year in Iowa City. They're on their way to a 3rd straight win in Lincoln, that is, capping their undefeated regular season in 2015 with a win here 28-20 and rolling 38-17 in 2013. Kelly Martin with a 6th run, and a run that will end up in the end zone for another touchdown for Iowa.
Is there any more running backs for Iowa that need a touchdown on the afternoon?
They have 4.
Right,
they have 4
exactly.
now. Wadley has 3, and now 1 apiece for Ivory Kelly Martin, Torrin Young, and James Butler, by the way, with his first touchdown of the season earlier in the game. The extra point for Miguel Racinos. Kirk Ferentz and his team about to go to 7-5 and start making bowl plans. They lead big in Lincoln. Here's the TD run for Ivory Kelly Martin. For Iowa, they're about to go to 4-3 against Nebraska since the series has been played on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. They've met nearly 50 times dating back to the 1890s. Nebraska leads the series, but Iowa leads today's game, and they lead it big, 56-14. The kickoff run back by Jalen Bradley. Right now we go to LA for a game break. Here is Greg Wolf.
All right, Mark, thanks. Over in the SEC, Missouri and Arkansas tied at 45. Tucker McCann, 19-yard field goal. And that would win it for Mizzou. Immediately after the game, Arkansas announces Brett Bielema has been fired as their head coach. He went 29-34 over 5 seasons, including just 1-7 in conference this year. Back to you guys.
Wow. So news coming from Arkansas today, coaching news on what is setting up to be some seismic shifts this offseason in the coaching ranks as Stanley Morgan Jr. catches the pass outside the 30-yard line. And why is it going to be potentially seismic shifts? Look at the coaching jobs, the schools that have openings, Danny.
I mean, and they're pretty premier programs too, with Florida, UCLA, Tennessee, Ole Miss. I mean, there's some big-name programs. I'm sure people that are watching this game tuned in for Nebraska are assuming this job is going to be open as well. So there's going to be some shakeup.
And a deflection and interception. Tanner Lee's pass is picked off, and a chance to run it back for Christian Welch. He's upended by Lee, the quarterback, at the 15.
Man, they come in bunches for this Iowa defense. These turnovers, man, they start feeling it when Nebraska having to throw it so much. Just looking at Stanley Morgan Jr. trying to get open. That's a rare drop from him. It just pops right into the safety's hands.
And Welch runs it back over 30 yards. Most interceptions in FBS as it stands right now, the 19th of the season. The 3rd today. Tanner Lee now at 16 interceptions this year. That includes a 4-pick day against Oregon, a 3-pick day against Northwestern, a running play for Torrin Young. As we see the score of 56-14, if you're just checking it out, it's probably worth reminding everyone Nebraska led 14-7 late in the second quarter, and 14-14 was the score at half. How did this thing turn so far so fast?
You got to credit Iowa. They came out explosive. They had the huge kickoff return coming out of halftime by Smith-Marset. Capitalized on that. Their defense really picked up on it. In Nebraska, for whatever reason, I think this is probably what's frustrated Mike Riley and his fan base. They just looked a little bit lackluster in the third quarter, and the minute they let their guard down, Iowa pounced on them.
Well, one of the words that he used with us earlier this week was fragile.
Yep.
Play clock runs out before the snap here as we go on to the 5-minute mark.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. It's still second down.
And when you say fragile, it's one thing to get, 2 scores in a row, but to get completely dominated the way they have, I think that's what Mike Riley was talking about. You've got this is a tough sport. It's mentally tough. It's taxing. You've got to be able to withstand punches, and this team has not been able to all season long.
Running play for Young. Can't run out of the tackle at the line of scrimmage by Carlos Davis. To your point, one of the games that he reflected upon and specifically used the term fragile was Minnesota. And much like this game, it got away from them with a dominant performance by the Golden Gophers.
Yep. Just got ugly. And too many ugly performances by this team is probably why Mike Riley will be looking for work come tomorrow as well. The Arkansas, with Brett Bielema being fired, everybody kind of pointed to Jeff Long, their athletic director, getting fired. You kind of saw that coming. Very similar here when Sean Eichhorst was fired. People said, that probably means the end for Mike Riley as well.
Under the 4-minute mark, a running play for the 17 as Young tried to fight out of the tackle of Dismuke, but can't. Down he goes at the 15.
No, I think Iowa's going to keep their offense on the field to try to run up the score. You know, there's no real point in kicking a field goal. These coaches have a lot of respect for each other. Two of the classiest coaches in the business.
This is 4th down at the Nebraska 15. You're so right, by the way, in your description of both Riley and Kirk Ferentz. Enjoyed the opportunity to speak with both at length this week. Great gentlemen. Running play here for Torin Young. And this will be an Iowa drive that ends with a turnover on downs. Most of the drives for Iowa in the second half have ended, though, with them in the end zone. First, Akram Wadley. Then a touchdown run for Wadley. Here's James Butler, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some depth in this running back position. Then you get the tight ends involved. Why not add to his school record touchdown total? Noah Fant got a couple. Then you go back to Wadley. I mean, this is a day for the offense for Iowa. It's going to pad a lot of their stats on the season, the type of performance they've had this afternoon.
501 yards where they stand right now in total offense. A 4th straight game where the Nebraska defense surrenders at least 475 yards to the opponent. Down goes Jalen Bradley. Again, the Music City Bowl, maybe the Pinstripe Bowl, Foster Farms, those are all potential candidates for Iowa and what would be their 15th bowl game under Kirk Ferentz. They'll try to end a losing streak in bowl games of 5, dating back to their last win, the 2010 Insight Bowl. Last time they won a bowl game, that was against Missouri. The snap for Nebraska with 2:20 to play. Stanley Morgan with the catch. Morgan earlier today went over Johnny the Jet Rogers for the most receiving yards in a season in Nebraska history. But the story is Iowa as we look at winning duos sponsored by Volkswagen. Why settle for an SUV when you can have an SUVW? Akram Wadley, 19 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tight end Noah Fant, the sophomore, 2 scores of his 3 catches and 116 receiving yards.
Pretty good duo right there.
Big play for Fant earlier in the game. Wadley's gone over 1,000 yards. See how we planned that? For those two guys to be the winning duo, and there they are sitting right next to each other
Look at that.
on the Iowa Hawkeyes bench.
Yep. Look at that, doing it just for our camera shot right there.
They knew what we needed.
Yep.
They got the word on the sponsor. Final 90 seconds of the game. Another running play here for Jalen Bradley. And wrapped up by freshman H.A. Epinesa in the backfield. For the 4th time in the last 5 years, Iowa will win the Heroes Trophy. They had their first sack of the game in the second half, a second half that has been dominated by the Hawkeyes. And of note, that's 27 straight games now with a sack for the Iowa defense, the 3rd longest string in the country. Lee with a 2nd down heave and incomplete. Tomorrow on Fox, one of the biggest rivalries in sports. Number 9 Ohio State visits Michigan at the Big House for the 114th meeting. Coverage begins at 10:30 a.m. Eastern only on Fox, or stream it live on Fox Sports Go. Will be hard to beat the drama, Danny, of what happened last year, the 4th down play for Ohio State.
Yep. It's going to be Ohio State's favored pretty heavily in that game, but it's a rivalry game. See if Michigan's defense can stop J.T. Barrett and his crew, and if they can mount anything offensively to keep that close in the 4th quarter. But it's been a crazy football season. I'm sure it'll continue tomorrow in that matchup. It should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it didn't stop today with, remember, Miami being bounced from the ranks of the unbeaten. And today the worm turned in this game very, very quickly in the third quarter. There was a lead of a touchdown by Nebraska late in the second quarter. Iowa tied it by halftime. And then Iowa and Kirk Ferentz sees his team score all of the points in the second half. And they win the Heroes Trophy, taking the game 56-14. You mentioned the class of these two men right here, and they'll meet with a handshake and a hug at midfield, Danny.
Yeah, this is an impressive performance from Iowa going out. Very reminiscent of their performance against Ohio State not that long ago. And they capped an end to a season. They'll get to a better bowl because of this one. And Mike Riley probably looking at his last walk off this field here in Lincoln.
The season ends at 4-8 for Nebraska, which is their most losses in a season since 1957. Regular season 7-5 now for Iowa. Coming up, we'll get you to Mike Hill in Los Angeles for more college football coverage.